Jain, everyone. Our next program, as you see, has a very interesting title, Potatoes Have Rights Too: Why Vegetarianism is Not Enough for a Jain. We are fortunate to have eminent panelists for this session, and it is my proud privilege to present Dr. Samni Pratibha Pragyaji, Ms. Jignasha Mehta, Ms. Priyanka Shah, and the chairperson, Mr. Sagar Kirich. Now, who does not know our revered Dr. Samni ji, Pratibha Pragya ji, and what can I say about her? Samni ji is a senior disciple of Acharya Sri Mahashraman ji. She has a doctorate degree and is a research associate at SOAS. She is the spiritual head of JVB, World Peace Center, London. She is a Preksha Yoga and meditation teacher. She is into spirituality as well as service, and she has initiated rural development projects in Rajasthan, as also the Mahapragya International School. It is not possible to sum up her personality and achievements in a few words. I'm sorry. Ms. Jignasha Mehta is our second panelist. She is a teacher with over 20 years' experience. She now devotes her time to Seva and leads the Srimad Rajchandra Divine Touch in London. They deliver spiritual classes to improve youngsters and to motivate them to lead a meaningful life. Our third panelist, Ms. Priyanka Shah, is a certified physician associate and content creator for her own blog. Her work has been internationally recognized and featured by BBC, topic documentaries, and various other reputed places. Today's chair is Mr. Sagar Kirich. He is a powerful speaker for the impact of our food choices on animals and the environment. His job involves research to find ways to reduce animal suffering. Over the years, he has held again many important positions in various organizations too numerous to enumerate. So given this power-packed introduction, no doubt you are raring to hear them. Without further ado, please welcome our panel for a discussion on Potatoes Have Rights Too: Why Vegetarianism is Not Enough for a Jain.
Thank you. Jai Jinendra and Pranam. The Jain dietary code is complex. As well as avoiding meat, eggs, honey, Jains traditionally avoid root vegetables, mushrooms, and fungus, and many seeded fruits like figs and aubergines. In recent years, increasing numbers of Jains have been turning to a vegan diet in light of the cruelty in dairy production. It is very pleasing to see a large audience today, young and old, Jain and some non-Jain too. We're very fortunate today to have an extremely knowledgeable panel who follow many of the, or most aspects of the traditional Jain diet and who are happy to generously share their wisdom and experiences with us today. We'll start with a structured Q&A with Jignasha Ben and Priyanka Ben, covering teachings about the diet at Pathshala classes and their own personal experiences, as well as cooking hints and tips. We'll then have a presentation from Samni ji about the dietary restrictions on fast days, with a special focus on Ambel, followed by time for an audience Q&A. So, to kick off, Jignasha Ben, you're a teacher of Jainism. How do you explain to the children you teach the reasons why Jains avoid certain foods, and to what extent do you cover secular or scientific reasons in your classes?
Thank you, Sagar Bhai. Jai Jinendra to you all. So, as was introduced, I've been teaching for 20-odd years, but I've been blessed to be teaching Arhat Touch since 2009, which is a Jain Pathshala-style school for children aged 9 to 12 years old. And in these classes, we teach the children how to live the Jain way. So naturally, food comes into that because the act of food is there, and that's part of living the Jain way. So we introduced this topic to the children with this symbol, this Jain symbol. And as you can see, the word ahimsa is written in the middle of it. And we explained to the children, this is the reason why we need to be careful about what we eat. So this Jain symbol is telling us to stop. It's telling us to stop and to examine our activities, that we are performing them with love and respect to all living beings. Yes, so that ahimsa permeates the way that we behave. So then we go on to tell the children that Bhagwan, thousands of years ago, in the light of his Gevagnan, has given Agna as to the kind of foods we should eat and not eat. So the foods that cause violence are called abhaksha foods, and the foods that cause minimal violence are bhaksha foods. Then we take certain foods and discuss it with the children, and it's a really lovely approach that we take, where it's an open discussion with them, they ask questions, and there's lots of thoughts that are seeded, and they also share their experiences of life in the UK too. So here, we first tell them what Bhagwan's Agna is. We then support that with what science says, and then we give them a picture of reality from some facts and figures around the world. So if I just give you an example of one of the foods we take is alcohol. There are quite a few foods, but one is alcohol. And we share with them first Bhagwan's Agna, which is that innumerable jeeves take birth and die continuously in alcohol. Alcohol is made by fermenting either fruit or grains for periods of days. And in that fermentation process, many jeeves are born and die in that process. And then at the end of the process, this whole liquid is boiled, so all those jeeves die. So that's Bhagwan's Agna. Bhagwan's Agna is also that alcohol is intoxicating, leads to social evils, and is addictive. It's a vyasan. Yes, it's very difficult to manage. So that gives them the knowledge shared thousands of years ago. Then we share modern day knowledge, what science says. And I'm sure most of you will be familiar with what science says today about how alcohol is harmful to our health, how much it damages different parts of our body. And it's not only damaging to our physical body, but also to our mental health. So that is shared with the children. And then we give them a picture of reality on how fatal alcohol consumption can be. So here it says the World Health Organization has said 3 million people die each year from alcohol abuse. So that's the way we share with our children, and it gives rise to lots of discussion. That's one food type. To give you another food type in brief, we also talk about gunmul, root vegetables, and how those are not consumed by one who's practicing Jainism. And Bhagwan's Agna is there again, that gunmul, root vegetables, are a type of food which has many innumerable organisms in there which die as we cook or eat them. But then there are other classes of vegetables which only have one life per vegetable. So they are the ones that will cause the minimum harm to eat. And in our practice of explaining, we never tell them that you must do this or a Jain must do this. It's always experiment, have a go. If you have some conviction, then have a go. And that's how we approach the subject of, I wanted to add also the science with gunmul. We do tell them that gunmul is something that gives rise to rajasic and tamasic qualities which affect our well-being and our behavior. So if you want to avoid that kind of lustful passions, kashai, that kind of negative energy within you, then you will avoid those group of foods. So that's how we approach the subject, Sagarbai.
Thank you very much, Ignacio. Very inspiring about how you teach the children. Now, you transitioned to a traditional Jain diet later in life. So what prompted you to change, and how was the experience for you?
Yes, I transitioned later on in life. I am very blessed to have a spiritual master in my life, Pujya Gurudev Sri Rakesh Ji. And there was a time around 2005 that he was blessing our home with a mandir. And it was a very auspicious occasion for our family. And at that time, I wanted to offer him something. And I was aware of his diet and of the devotees around him. And I thought it fitting that I should do this. And it fell away quite easily, the eating of, the onions, potatoes and garlics. I was already a vegetarian, but then that all fell away. So that came as a feeling of faith in him. But then later on, as time went on, as I listened to more of his satsang and listened to the Bhagwan's teaching, that feeling of compassion deepened and it became my conviction. So that's been my journey in following the Jain diet, and there's been no looking back at all.
Thank you. So Priyanka Ben, you grew up following a traditional Jain diet at home and then decided to take things further by avoiding dairy and embracing a vegan diet. What motivated you to make the transition?
So thank you for that question. Having been raised on a Jain diet, my mom nourished us with delicious Jain meals, but also taught us why we're eating that way and to make mindful decisions. So kind of going off of what we've already discussed about the Jain diet and the reasons we eat certain foods and that we don't eat others. And when I went to university, it was really the first time that I was making my own food choices. And I had a hard time finding Jain food in our canteen, let alone vegetarian food. And through this, began experimenting with cooking and found my passion for that. And when I started sharing these recipes online, I decided to make a blog because I was getting a lot of questions about how I was making Jain food so tasty looking and basically why I ate that way. And throughout this time, I really started to introspect on these questions I was getting and introspect, why am I eating this way? Is it just because I was raised this way, or is there really something deep within me that is motivating this? And through that, I began to question, why was I avoiding root vegetables but still consuming dairy? And so I'll just go to the next slide. So through this time, I decided that I wanted to look into this more. So I realized my own cognitive dissonance, that I wasn't really paying attention to what's going on in the dairy industry. And I started watching documentaries, reading a little bit more about it, and reading about the ethical impact on animals, but also environmental and health reasons why dairy is harmful. And during this time, is it working? Okay. During this time, I also realized that the cruelty and the violence in the dairy industry were so obviously contradictory to the lifestyle I wanted to live, rooted in ahimsa or nonviolence. I also realized that there wasn't really a reason for me not to go vegan besides my own ego, convenience, and comforts. So with that, I decided to look for an intersection between both Jain and vegan diets.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I know, having been involved in the Jain vegan community in the UK for a while, I understand what many others have gone through while making this transition. Also really nice to see there was an excellent documentary last year on BBC on the dairy production. It's organised by great work that was done by Animal Equality, and it's great to see them in the audience today. So how was the experience for you when making this transition personally?
Sure. So transitioning to a vegan diet from a Jain diet, or transitioning, should I say, to a vegan and Jain diet, felt like a natural and necessary progression for me. It allowed me to feel more aligned with my values on compassion for all living things. And after dairy being part of my life and culturally integrated for over 20 years, the transition didn't happen overnight, and that was okay. I knew I wanted to make a transition that was sustainable, so gradually I found replacements or swaps for dairy items that I enjoyed and integrated that in a way that would be permanent in my life, that I could respect in a social setting as well, and along with my family, who is not vegan, but they are Jain. So a few tips that I like to think about when I was going through this transition was focusing on abundance, so not thinking about the things that I couldn't eat, but really about the gains and how it made me feel. Also, it was about being consistent and not a perfectionist, and that allows for sustainability with any habit changes that you're forming. And then realizing I'm trying to apply ahimsa to not just the food that I'm eating, but the preparation, the purchasing, the serving, and making it part of my lifestyle. And so balancing a Jain and vegan diet at sometimes can be difficult. It's been interesting because in settings where I have autonomy, like in my own home or in my kitchen, I can easily combine the two, vegan and Jain. When I'm in social settings or traveling, it can be challenging. And in these situations, I try my best to request modifications at a restaurant, or if I'm going to, a social gathering, offer to bring a Jain vegan dish for friends to try. And in settings where I can't and I have to choose between one or the other, I personally have found that I lean towards the vegan choices just because I can't, after seeing and reading and hearing about the impacts with the dairy industry, I personally couldn't ignore the violence and suffering faced by cows. And luckily in the last 5 years, and even in the last 5 years, we've seen so many more alternatives for vegan products arise. There's almost something for every dairy product that there's a vegan alternative for, and they've gotten a lot more tasty too, I'd say.
Thank you so much. And what resources would you recommend for those wanting to find more vegan and Jain recipes?
So, of course, there are a few tips right here for swaps for some of the Jain-friendly ingredients. So you can see onions you can substitute with celery or capsicum, potatoes with plantains, carrots with butternut squash, and garlic with hing or asafoetida powder. Also, like I said, tons of dairy alternatives are available in the market. And if you take out your phone and take a picture of this slide or scan any of these QR codes, my blog is on the left, as well as a few vegan Jain cookbooks written by some amazing authors, and a blog called jainvegans.org that has a lot of resources for anyone interested in learning more about veganism and implementing it into their Jain lifestyle.
So much, Priyanka Ben. Now, as well as foods that are avoided, or at least sought to avoid at all times, the Jain Dietary Code also involves restrictions of when you can eat, with consumption limited to daylight hours, and various types of fasts during Tithi days or holy days and festivals. During the rainy season, green vegetables are often avoided because they're more abundant with jiv during this time. I think we in the West are often don't get exposed to the reasoning behind these practices. For example, routine use of insecticides means we very rarely see insects living in the fruit and vegetables we buy from shops. But if we were to eat homegrown organic vegetables or greens, as some of us try to grow during the pandemic, we'd just see how many different insects and life exists within these plants and how much wisdom there is in avoiding them at certain times of the year. Jignashaben, you seek to avoid eating after sunset and also observe restrictions on Tithi days. How do you find this experience?
So regarding the after sunset, I think it's Bhagwan's Agna that a lot more jiv are born as the sun sets, and they only are alive for a short period of time. They die as well, and those jiv that are born can land on food, and they're in the air, many of which we cannot see. So I know we're not in a hot country like India, but that doesn't mean it's not happening here. And in knowing that, I just felt like something I could try to practice to do, and I've found it that I am not completely there, but on my journey to it. And also in terms of the science that supports it, if you eat earlier, it's a lot better for you, and you feel much better having eaten earlier, so it just fits well. And the Tithi days are days like our Paryushan days, where we don't eat vegetables and fruits. And Tithi days follow the cycle of the moon, and come weekly, almost once a week, there'll be a Tithi day. And I personally have found it a really lovely day to not take a knife to a fruit or a vegetable. So I don't have to do that. And also, it's Bhagwan's Agna that on those days, the Tithi days, your next life form can be determined. So if I'm on that spiritual pursuit, then I want to be in that good, noble thought kind of practice in my thoughts and in my actions. So on the subtle level, it's the food I eat, and on the gross level, it's how I behave with others. So that's my experience of Tithi and Ratri Bhojan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jinashaben. So I think that last question brings us on nicely to the topic of dietary restrictions observed on fast days, which is the topic of Samanji's presentation, where there'll be a special focus on Ambel, which is very fitting because the diet during Ambel also happens to be vegan. But thank you very much, and hopefully there'll be more time for the audience to ask you questions. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, our life is depend on food. That is gross food, subtle food, and subtlest food. So today, like how we can think the what type of food we can take during our festival days, specifically Paryusan days, Ashtanik days, and the days which are specifically dedicated, which are related to the seasons, Chaitra and Aso Aimbil Olis. These are also important days for us, and we have a great history. And here we can see adaptations, alteration in the Varshitav. Just I'm taking to you, all of you, in a journey. And in that journey, when Bhagavan Adinath himself, he renounced the world, this Panchamushti Loch, and ready to leave, and thousands people together. And at that time, nobody knows how to offer food, what to give, and what not to give. So these do's and don'ts are not in the prescription of the Sravkas. There was no Sangha. So when Bhagavan went door to door and looking at our doorstep, King himself, then they brought some gold coin, some silver coin, some jewelry, some nice clothes, but nobody offered food. So automatically, 1 year and 1 month long Varshita, without food, without water. But what happened? All we ready to do that? Not possible. Without water, even cannot imagine a year-long fasting. So there is an alteration. There is a change. So 1 day fast and 1 day we eat. And that eating, in some sangha, that is open eating. But some sanghas, they do biyashana, means twice. So parana, twice a day, like taking food in 2 times. So that is biyashana. And some tradition do, while do they parana, after that whatever intake they have to do, they can do. So this type of fast breaking ceremonies, time to time, our family celebrates when we do this Varshita. So again, summarizing with is the soteriological purpose, just and highlighting the karma and reaching towards the destination 1 step ahead. Yes, definitely. This is the sole purpose. But when we do this Varshita, if you don't eat, what happened? Your hunger is there, your jatragni is there, your heat is there, and that heat eats those germs, virus accumulated inside the body. And this is the best use, this is the scientific use of fasting. Today, we need this research. Few research came out, but still more to do. And I imagine one day that could be in the mainstream of the medical science. So this is our worship of fasting. Then second, Aim bil Oli. So Aim bil Oli is what to do. Doing one day, one time eating. So again, you are reducing your intake and giving you space and giving the space to your mechanism inside the body. Then during that time, no ras, yani ras virgin. So pulses, cereals, and no sprouts, no greenery, and boiled, and like no curd, no milk, yani technical term is vigay, no vikriti. When you eat a lot more rich food, and sometimes that rich food work on your brain and body and also obsess your mind. And it happens. And therefore, when I initiated at the time, interestingly, I was reading my Niyamavali, and in that Niyamavali, a monk and nun should not drink that much specific like milk, ghee, all these vikriti. So there is a limit. Then I said, why? If we like, we should eat. Then said, no, the restriction has its more importance, because if you want to do in work in your subtle world, in your research, and sometime those who are researcher and world-renowned people, if you see their diet, amazingly, that diet impact their mind and giving them space, and they can give something very specific to the society, to the research world. So very important, if someone comes out, I specifically remember Acharya Mahapragya Ji's diet, because his knowledge about diet and food was par excellence. And having the knowledge of Ayurveda, Ashtanga Hridaya, so all these knowledge, through that knowledge, he has given so many instructions. And then Chovihar, again, nowadays lot more people are talking about the fasting, intermittent fasting. So that fasting, automatic, those who are Jains and those who are doing Chovihar, and during this winter days, automatic it happens. So every year, 6 months, we have that intermittent fasting lifelong, if we are in UK. Or I request you all that if this perspective, then normally we say, dono haath laddu hai. Aapke dono haath laddu hai. So you can take the benefit of your spiritual development and your health rejuvenation. So this Aim bil Oli is very, very important for our way of soteriological purpose. Then I would like to take one more technical term, unodari. How many of you know unodari? Can you raise hand? Oh, many people. I'm happy. I'm happy you have that idea. So unodari, un means less. Udar means stomach. So make your stomach little less. Your lunch box little less. And important. So in our Saman Sutta, jo jassau aharo tatto amao tu jo kare jahanena jas gassati evam dabbena va bhave. So a person who takes less food, even a morsel, a little less, that is like normal diet. So less than the diet, this practice is unodari. And then the last line is more important, like drabya unodari, bhav unodari, and which is connecting to your whole lifestyle. So suppose you are buying 10 sets of dresses. So unodri in dresses, unodri in shoes, unodri in scarves, unodri in makeup, unodri in dressing, so many things. So this drabya and bhav unodri is very, very important in this tradition. And if we see that eating less than hunger, so it is again minimalism. Very important term to this world, to this universe, to answer so many problems. Morning we are discussing the Jain monks and nuns lifestyle, and which is one point to save the planet. Even I can include the whole congregation of the Jains. Try to follow minimalism and then deformation. We are open, and the open-mindedness is what Mahavira did, what Adinath Bhagwan did, is not possible for us. Then we should be ready. Like sometimes people ask, okay, like today's topic, very hot topic, I can say, like potato. What potato did? Something wrong? Yeah. Here, not wrong and right. Yeah, catchy topic, I appreciate. But I would like to say, like being a Jain, if you develop slowly yourself. But I think we should not bind our school-going kids, our children, but it is seeing and believing. If mommy and papa is not doing something, they see, they look and learn. And similarly, if dada and dadi, nana and nani, they are not doing something, they imitate it, they do it. So we have to understand our kids' plate is already short, our youth's plate is already short, small, and if they are at uni, so in that context, let them have a lesson, be vegetarian, be vegan. And when, like the Parvatithi or some specific days, then you understand it, and if they are together in some holidays, in some Parva days, that they follow your way of diet. And the last point, detox, that is very important. And detoxing, it means inner cleansing. Inner cleansing at subtle level, the cleansing of your soul. Definitely, but not visible. But detoxing, I would like to narrate my story. At the age of 32, I was diagnosed with rheumatic arthritis. And all the time I was in pain, like a pain orchestra in my body. And doctor suggested me go for every month one steroid injection, once in a month. Then he said, it is nothing. Only 1 or 2 days you have some pain in the body, but rest 28 days you are very good. You feel good. Then I said, doctor, look, I am a renouncer. I am a nun, and my posting sometime in a small village, in that village there is no hospital, no doctor, no nurses. Then how could I take every month injection? Can I take sometime or sometime I can avoid? Then they say, no, steroid is like a course. You have to take that same date after a month. Then I say, no, this is not my choice. I don't want to go. And luckily, at that time, in my meditation master's course, I was in Delhi, and in Delhi, I had 100 students, and luckily, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's doctor was in my master degree student, and she said, why don't you go for naturopathy? Then I say, I will do some holistic things. So I did, it was the time of Ainbil Oli. I did 9 days fasting on water. And after that, with the help of that lady doctor, I did 9 days fasting on juices. It is interesting to listen, oh, juice whole day? No, you don't like. And after 9 days fasting, you don't like, you like to eat. Am I right? Yes. So that day, when I broke my fast, inside it was a craving that can I have some mug water, mug no pani, or something like that. Then the doctor said, no, nothing, no grain. And you have to avoid salt, sugar, and no masala, no paper, so nothing. And add half a glass of water and little bit juice. Oh my God. So that type of every hour I have to. And the real cleansing started. After 9 days, I asked, what is next? Then she said, now clear soup, ghas pus ka pani. And what happened? And then I said, can I take little bit salt? No salt. So 9, 9, 9, 27 days. And on that diet. And after that, I asked, what is next? Then she says, boiled sabji, but not good sabji, no fruity, not like that, just papaya, not pakka papaya, kacha papaya, raw papaya, and loki, courgette type of things. So again 9 days. So after 35 days, I first day took little dalia and salty dalia. So it was my fasting. And today I am in front of you without this drug, without any other medicine, and my 32 years passed like this. So I can say it is unodari tap, taking less, and it is cleansing. It is something medical, or it is definitely, when I asked her, she told me, okay, you have this thing only. Then I did my tyag, and with tyag, I did open my door towards samvar and nirjara. So I feel that unodari tap is the best. Otherwise, when we sit on the table and the food in front of us, and someone say, okay, take little less, then sometime, even I say, if I have something, then Pune Pragyaji request me, if better you take little less. Then I say, no, today I'm eating, I would like to eat full. Huh? And we get everyday gochari from different houses. Or today, Jignasa brought gochari from Dr. Sonali. So, yeah, every day from different houses, different type of food, and yeah, with full of bhav, and sometime with a little note of well-wishing, and okay, this food, we are giving you this material food for nourishing you spiritually, or spirituality growth. So you see, our community has that type of feeling. So unodari tap, I think the best and the hardest tap. While you eat, at that time controlling yourself is really, really important. So I say we have to understand the minimalism, deformation, and detox. Arham, Om Arham.
Thank you very much, Samniji. Very entertaining as well as informative. So we have about 9 minutes for questions from the audience left. So please ask questions. Shandip is going to move the mic. I think we're going to try and take questions close together in order to save microphone moving around time. Thank you.
My question to Jignasa, in your teaching to children, how do you explain root vegetables, not to take root vegetables? What reasoning do you give to them?
So with root vegetables, that's the kanmul category. Yes? Yes. So as I said, that Bhagwan's Agna is in those root vegetables, there are innumerable jeevs, many, many microorganisms in that one vegetable, where there is another class of vegetables which are pratyak vanaspatikai, one jeev, one vegetable. So if we had to choose, then we can try and choose the pratyak vanaspatikai over the sadharan vanaspatikai. So that's Bhagwan's explanation.
Do they understand this?
So,
So many lives in one potato.
yes, I'm glad you asked. The reason why they understand that is prior to us teaching food philosophy in an earlier level, we have taught them jiv vichar. We have taught them that jiv can come in the form of 1 sense being to 5 sense beings. So they have already had that understanding in an earlier lesson that jiv vichar is quite broad.
What age do they understand?
So these classes are for 9 to 12-year-olds. So this food philosophy is around 10, 11, and they seem to take it on. They seem to take it on. Thank you for your question.
A bit of a question and a comment, and it was thank you, Samnivan, for your talk, and the rest for sharing your experiences. It was quite interesting to hear that unodari is much more difficult and really tough, and I share that. I've done some full fasts a few times and then just going all out. But I find ambel and maybe unodari is one of the hardest, and I've never attempted it. I've not even thought about it. Okay, I've thought about ambel, but it's really difficult. I just wanted to share what's the best way to try and either tackle that challenge, or how can you make it more consistent and longer lasting? Because I think if you bring it into the new world dieting and seesawing or yo-yoing through one diet to the other, they're quite similar. Where you'll say you might try unodari for a day or 2 days, but then you quickly break that. So what's the best way to overcome that? Because I find doing full fasting, whether that's Paryushan, Atai, whatever, is easy. Doing your normal food is easy, but then limiting what you're eating, or something like ambel, where you're not only controlling what you're eating, but you're controlling your taste as well.
Yes, very good question. And it is all about mind programming. Send some messages to your subconscious mind. And I think this is not a problem for you only. Those who are doing big fastings and in the Parna, they broke the rules. So it happens for most of the people. So, and whenever our sadhu sadhvi, they ask for attai and maskaman or pakwada. After that, they give tyag to householder. For 1 week, no fried food. For 1 week, no red chili. From 1 week, this, avoid this. So that tyag one can follow. So I think it is the better idea, say something before you go to sleep. Tell yourself, communicate with yourself. And that self-communication, self-grooming will help you, and that will make your way easier. And the second thing, if you can set one day. Previously, I set one Sunday, no salt. So sometimes ladies say, okay, Samniji, Sunday we cook this. So in your gochari, we have to think. Then I say, no, it's my own thought, like for 2-3 years, I would like to do that. And similarly, so if you set one day for yourself in a week, that is also good practice. But before that practice, do some contemplation, and send that message to your mind programming.
Thank you so much for the presentation to the whole panel. That was really, really interesting. My question is for Priyanka Ben. So taking on veganism and Jainism together, I'm sure you'll probably tell me if I asked you, is your diet well balanced? And following that question, because I know the answer is probably going to be yes, and you probably have had good thought to it, what's your source of vitamin B12? Because the way I see it, either you get it from mushrooms, which is not Jain, or you get it from dairy products, which is not vegan.
So it's a very good question. So as a healthcare professional myself, these are things that I'm very conscious about. And I think, whether you follow a Jain diet, a vegetarian diet, a vegan diet, there are many ways to follow that diet, but be eating very unhealthy. So following something that's a whole food, plant-based, limiting processed foods, and eating more and cooking more at home, all of those ways have helped me and patients I talk to as well who want to eat a more balanced diet have that integrated into their lifestyle to make sure you're getting all of your micronutrients, your macronutrients, and then of course like regular follow-up with your doctors, making sure you do blood tests to make sure whatever changes you're making in your diet are working for you. As far as B12 goes, so the common misconception I think is like B12 only comes from dairy or only comes from non-vegetarian foods, but really B12 is found in the soil. It's made by a microbe, and back in the day, like people probably you'd eat like a vegetable off that's fallen off the ground. There's some of that B12 already. It's not clean. It's already in that vegetable or fruit. Now, for me, I think that I've been able to get enough B12 through fortified foods. A lot of oats have B12 added, or if you're having non-dairy milk, sometimes they have B12 added to it. You can also find liquid B12 drops that are vegan friendly in like Holland & Barrett or any supplement store. So it's really easy to get it that way. But again, like it's something to be conscious about with any dietary changes, that you're getting enough of those whole foods. And usually with that balanced diet, you'll get enough protein, you'll get enough of your micronutrients, as you said, and you don't really have to try to do it because it's already in these wonderful vegetables and fruits.
Hello. Yes, this is a question for Samniji. I thought that was really interesting how you managed to cure yourself through naturopathy. Am I right? Yeah. I did a little study of naturopathy as it is being practiced in India and in Nepal. And from my understanding, it also involves drinking your own urine. Like, for example, Moraji Desai, he did that. I'm wondering if this is in harmony with Jain, beliefs and practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina ji, if I'm not missing you. Yeah, this. So, naturopathy and Jainopathy, this like self-urine therapy. So in Jain Agamas, in commentary literature, there is Moya Padima. Moya Padima means, Moya means mutra. So it is a urine therapy. And that is also, germs, cut the germs of, it is their food. So this waste product of the body again became a medicine, and that is used. So many Jain monks and nuns used it, and it is working quite well. One night, I was in the train. I was newly initiated, and it was summer day. So what I did, I moved the window up, and suddenly the window fallen down on my finger, and there was so much blood. At night, Jain monks and nuns, we have no water, no medication, nothing. We are not allowed to use all these things. So at that point, what to do? Then my head told me, go and get your own urine in a small piece of cotton and tie it. Then, because I just initiated, so I say, oh, no, I don't want to do this dirty thing. Then she said, no, at night we have nothing, no ointment, no malam, no patti. And then I applied it, and morning, when they opened this patti, it was like half healed. And then we washed and dressed, and we used, at daytime, we used ointment. But your own urine is really a medicine.
Right, on that, I think we have unfortunately run out of time.
Say one thing, please.
Unfortunately.
It's just a minute. Just 1 minute. Where's the mic? Just 1 minute.
There are other people who are waiting. So
Last time you say to me, you know.
no, we've got another 2 acts after this. I'm really sorry.
I know.
Yeah?
Just 1 minute. Just
No,
1 minute.
listen,
It's on the urine, please.
I need to stop it.
I need to clarify it, please.
As per the Digamba Shastras, actually you cannot consume any of your own body waste. So just want to make that clear that you cannot use or drink your urine or any other waste of your body.
On that note.
Okay.
There would be different traditions and different, but I'm also quoting from the Shastras. And name is Moya Padima.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to say thank you to our panel for their excellent contributions today, and also thank you to the audience for great questions. So thank you.
So, thank you, respected Samni ji, Jignasha ji, Priyanka ji, and Mr. Sagar Shah for this beautiful program and for sparing your valuable time. You have shared such useful information. I'm sure each person in the audience will find it of great benefit. The question and answer session was very interesting. I'm sorry it could not go on. Sadly, there is always a time limit to which we must adhere to, whether we like it or not. So I'm really sorry about that.